It isn't often that I revisit a video, but for this one, I thought I should. We're going to return to Trinity Radio's 10 Questions for Atheists, and I'm going to dive deeper into the things that he pretends that Christianity does well as the things he doesn't think atheism does very well at all. Well, according to who? That's the question, and I don't know he has a very good answer. But let's give him a chance. At least I'm fair-minded about it, so let's get going. A couple of weeks ago, I answered 10 questions for atheists in a 2-part video, and there was part of the video that I said, well, I've talked about a lot of this before, and I was just going to skip by it. Now, I figure I ought to give those assertions their own video because I hate to leave anything unanswered. So here we go in what I hope is a shorter video, but I'm going to be answering all the things that Trinity Radio claims atheists don't give good answers to, or that Christians give really good answers to, and he's just wrong. He really is. So let's get into it, and here we go.
What facts about reality that you and I agree are real facts about the way the world is does your worldview account for, but my Christianity doesn't account for, or at least doesn't account for well?
That's easy, and I gave a pretty solid answer the first time through. He will get to a list of things that he thinks Christianity answers, but I wanted to stop before we got there and address the real problem that he's facing. The problem really is, does Christianity provide any correct answers to the positions he's going to propose? Or are these just things that he accepts on an emotional level because he really wishes that these were the answers? That's where the religious tend to get tripped up after all. They want comforting answers, not true answers, and I'm the opposite. I don't give a damn about comfort. I only want things that comport well with objective reality. So keep that in mind as we move forward, because I don't think our answers are going to agree. Also keep in mind that I'm just jumping around his video this time, so don't go looking for anything in context. I already evaluated that a couple of weeks ago, and if you really want to know, go back and rewatch those videos. Anyhow, let's get on to his list.
And for those of you that would point out atheism isn't a worldview, I'm talking about your worldview that includes atheism. I can't think of any. Christianity accounts for evil.
No, it doesn't. Not in any demonstrable way. It makes claims about evil, but that's not the same as accounting for anything. It's just making things up. And that's going to come up time and time again, because that's exactly how the religious work. It's just making assertions, not providing any evidence that any of the things that Christianity claims are so are actually so in any objectively verifiable way. Whether Braxton here actually cares about that or not, I do. He should. I do. I just don't think that he does, and that's a problem. Yet, we can't explain evil as a purely subjective concept without appealing to religion at all. There's no such thing as objective evil. It's just something that we might not happen to like, and collectively, we refer to it that way. There's no single definition of what is evil. There never has been, and there never will be. It's all personal opinion, codified into collective consciousness when a lot of people happen to agree. And that's all that's going on here. Welcome to the real world.
Suffering.
Except you don't. In reality, and remember, this is going to apply to just about all the claims made here, because they don't really want to deal with reality, It's something that is present in the real world and about which Christianity just makes up bald rationalizations based on their pre-existing beliefs. Christianity doesn't explain anything. Nothing at all. It just invents stories that try to tell believers why certain things happen, whether that's actually true or not. Is there suffering in the world? Well, absolutely. People are hungry and diseased and unhappy all the time. There is no reason to appeal to a magical man in the sky or a malevolent presence in the netherworld to explain any of it. That's just life. Shit happens. Sorry if that doesn't give you an emotional Woody. But as I said before, the religious aren't looking at this trying to find real-world solutions to real-world problems. They're just off in their own magical happy land playing make-believe. It's just another bald rationalization for why their position, their entirely unjustified position, is so good, because they can twist and turn it in any way they like to make it seem like it answers almost any conceivable proposition, even though it really doesn't. But here's the reality. Life sucks. Nobody owes you anything, and you certainly don't deserve happiness or comfort. We're just animals, and animals don't spend their lives in luxury all the time. Sometimes you're on top of the food chain. Sometimes you're not. That goes for humanity as well. It doesn't matter if that fact makes you happy or not. It is what it is, and that's all it is. Deal with it. But the religious, they don't want to try to do that, do they?
The existence of other religions.
Dumb people are dumb. There you go. That accounts for the existence of every irrational thought pattern in the world. Yet the religious can't figure that out because they're not at all concerned about being irrational. In fact, they're pretty proud of it, even if they won't admit it. The simple fact is, Christianity can't deal with the actuality of other religions. It's all people trying to make sense of the world around them in an emotionally comforting manner, and that's not very realistic. Virtually every religion thinks that they're right and everyone else is wrong, and none of them have any better evidence for the veracity of their own beliefs than anybody else does. Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, you name it, most of them are very exclusionary. We're right and you're wrong. Christianity doesn't get to declare that they're right and everyone else is wrong just because it makes them feel good, because that's stupid. You actually have to be able to prove it, and none of them can. Not one. Which is why the religious just rationalize things. They can't actually provide any objective evidence or any reasonable answers. I just want to believe that I'm right. But that doesn't mean that you're right.
Including supernatural events in those other religions?
Yeah, prove it. Because this is yet another place where he's just pulling emotional comfort straight out of his ass. You can't prove that anything supernatural has ever happened. Ever. Period. You believe it because it says so in your silly book, and it makes you happy to do so, but that doesn't make it so. The fact is, any other religion can rationalize their way to anything that Christianity claims to, doing exactly the same thing that Christianity does. Some evil entity is out trying to mislead other religions away from the one true faith. Yeah, prove it. Because I don't care what circles you have to run around rationality. I care if you're rational, and you people simply are not. Just because you can invent some farcical explanation for the things that other religions say, that doesn't mean your explanations are reasonable, rational, or true. Nor their explanations about whether your religion is reasonable or true. And it's only the reasonableness and the truthfulness of any given proposition or explanation that actually means a damn thing. And it's funny how none of these people can get that through their heads.
Science?
Yeah, considering how inconsistently you use science, that's pretty laughable. Or should I say, religion misuses science more often than not, cherry-picking data in a desperate attempt to lend their beliefs some kind of legitimacy. You can't just grab an idea from here and an idea from there and claim that science somehow supports the crap in your head. That's not how it works. This is one of the things that I've pointed out many times before. You don't get to start with an emotionally comforting conclusion and then go back and cherry-pick data so that you can pretend that you found your pre-existing belief rationally. That's not how logic, reason, or critical thinking work. You need to start with the whole of the evidence and then follow that evidence where it most rationally leads. You can't go where your feelings want you to go just because your feelings want you to go there. You have to care about reality and not about your fee-fees. This is simply not how rational people operate. This is how the religious operate. And it's pretty damn stupid when you think about it.
And differences among different denominations of Christianity.
Who cares? I can explain that too. It's just not going to be the answer that you want to hear. The reason that there are more than 42,000 distinct sects of Christianity is because everyone is cherry-picking the Bible. They all have different things that make them happy or that they wish was true, and the Bible is so vague that depending on which passages you like and which ones you pay attention to, you can make it say almost anything that you want it to say. Now, I have no idea what his explanation for all of the denominations are. He didn't say, and I don't want to speculate, but you sure don't need Christianity to come to well-reasoned, objectively verifiable conclusions on any of this. That's really why none of this works in his favor. It's all make-believe, just like his imaginary friend. And none of that impresses the skeptical. It shouldn't impress him either.
But I can think of many things that the most common worldviews that include atheism don't answer as well as I think Christianity does.
Oh yeah, this ought to be good. But as I've said before, it doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you can prove, and absolutely all of this will just go past with no evidence whatsoever attached. Because he's really not interested, and that's a problem whether he likes it or not. Anyone can profess belief in any silly idea they want. That doesn't make their beliefs valid or credible. It's a place where people can engage in productive discussions, but as I pointed out in my previous videos, he doesn't seem to want to engage with his detractors in the comment section of his own videos. And whether he's willing to admit it or not, that's a problem.
Like universal supernatural claims.
Prove that any of them exist. I don't care about claims of alien abductions or Bigfoot either. Claims aren't proof of anything, but the claimant's overactive imagination. You can believe it all day, but until you can prove it, you're not being rational. So do try again.
Universal religious experiences.
Prove that they happen as the claimants say they do. This is a big one, and one that I continually have to bring up. Just because you arbitrarily assign a god as the source of some experience that you had, that doesn't prove a god done it. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you claim. I don't care what makes you feel good. I care what you can prove, and you can't prove a damn thing. And that's the problem. Just because you have this worldview that provides emotional comfort to you, that doesn't mean that's what's actually going on. It's a framework that these people have built up through which they evaluate reality. They're not looking at reality as it actually functions. They're just slapping religious labels on everything and pretending that somehow proves something. I don't know, isn't the same thing as God did it. Yet that's the game that the religious like to play. It's a quick and easy explanation that they can apply that both makes them happy and obviates their responsibility to actually go looking for real answers. Once you think God did it, answers everything, why try? Why even bother, because you've already answered every conceivable question? How have you actually come to the conclusion that God actually did anything or even exists at all? No answers, because they're just being intellectually lazy.
Free will.
Define your terms. This is really why I hate getting into free will discussions, because more often than not, everybody's just working from their own little definitions that are wholly incompatible with what anyone else says. It's a complete waste of time. Most of the time, free will is such a nebulous term in religious circles, especially since their made-up definition of their God entirely invalidates everything that they're talking about, that there's no reason to engage in it at all. If your deity knows absolutely everything that will ever happen with perfect clarity and can never be wrong, then free will is an illusion. You can't conceivably have the ability to make independent choices if God already knows what you're going to do. Try to say that to a theist, though, and watch the bizarre mental gymnastics they go through to try to hold on to the idea. It's really kind of a hoot.
Morality.
The religious are simply wrong about morality, full stop. They always have been, and they always will be. We know where morality comes from. In the simplest terms, it's enlightened self-interest combined with empathy. That's it. No gods required. Of course, the religious don't like that because it isn't enjoyable, so they just throw that right out the window. They're not interested in the truth, after all. Their morality comes from the same place that everyone else's does. They just want to throw a cozy overlay onto it, pretend their imaginary friend had something to do with it, and then run around pretending that that makes their bold assertions justifiable. And they're simply wrong. Nobody needs any god to be moral. In fact, gods tend to make the morality of the adherents questionable at best. You don't see atheists flying airplanes into buildings or shooting abortion doctors. Just saying.
Near-death experiences.
All of which can be explained by science and, as is no surprise, has nothing at all to do with anything supernatural or otherworldly. It's just the brain trying to compensate during a hazardous time. Most of the things reported in near-death experiences we can replicate in the lab. Tunnel of light? Check. Seeing loved ones? Check. Warm feelings? Check. We can do all of that, and it has nothing at all to do with actually dying. Yet the religious just don't give a damn, do they? It's something weird that they don't have an immediately emotionally comforting explanation for, so they just make one up. That's all religion is. Making things up because it makes you happy. And that's really stupid if you think about it, which is why they never do.
Beauty.
Beauty exists because our biology wants us to make certain decisions for the good of the species. Yes, that's a very simplistic explanation, but in general, that's what's going on. We want healthy offspring, which is why we go after partners that seem healthy and robust and meet certain standards. Theists claim that everyone has the same standards of beauty, but that's absolutely not the case. Look around the world at what is considered beautiful, and it's not remotely the same thing. Yet, so many theists are ignorant of the world beyond their very tight social circle that they haven't got a clue, and that makes it very easy to just make something up because, to their very narrow experiences, they can just make a case that they're right. Yet, they're not. They're never right, but they don't care either. It's not about finding a realistic, logical, critically evaluated view of reality. It's about getting their fifis coddled and nothing more. So this is just dumb.
The rapid expansion of the early church.
That's simple. Christianity languished in near oblivion right up until Rome came onto the scene, after which it became the only legal religion that one could have. I don't think most people have the slightest clue what the size of the early Christian church actually was. It wasn't anything to write home about. Best estimates say that within 3 centuries, there were maybe 3 million Christians total. But within 20 years of its creation, there were more than 100,000 Scientologists. If that had somehow become the official religion of the United States, as Christianity did with the Roman Empire, who knows where it might be today? Yet, I don't think Braxton here believes Scientology is a better religion because it grew far faster than early Christianity, do you? You don't need a god to explain popularity. You just need a lot of gullible people who want to listen and a lot of people who want to preach. Early Islam outgrew Christianity as well, but they were expansionistic and they just took their religious beliefs along. A real evaluation of conversion numbers simply doesn't show that Christianity was at all impressive.
The events surrounding the life and death of Jesus of Nazareth.
And be sure to prove that any of those things ever happened in the first place, won't you? Because we have zero evidence for any of it, period. You can't even prove that Jesus ever existed at all. And you need to be very clear which version of Jesus that you're talking about, because some guy wandering around Palestine 2,000 years ago, that doesn't get Christians anywhere. There is zero evidence, no demonstrable eyewitnesses, no physical evidence of any kind that there was an actual Jehoshua ben Joseph that ever lived, period. Yet, once again, this is Christianity yanking emotionally comforting nonsense straight out of their assholes. They're just not concerned whether any of it happened at all. It makes them happy, and they go with it because, yeah, screw reality, right? Who the hell cares about that? Yeah, rational people, that's who. But the religious are inherently not rational when it comes to their religious beliefs. It's all faith, zero facts, on a bun made of feelings. And that's stupid.
And our shared longing for purpose and meaning.
Sorry, but that doesn't mean a thing to me. I think most theists that I've interacted with, they're simply assuming, as we all know, that everyone is just like they are. It doesn't matter if that's true or not. That's what they want to believe, so that's what they're going to go with. It doesn't matter if any of it makes any sense whatsoever. What you want doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. Deal with it. I want you people to go away, and so far, you're still here. I come up with my own purpose and my own meaning, as do most rational people. We recognize that there is no reason to think that those things will be handed down from the clouds. It makes no sense of any kind, except to the emotionally frail, and thus it shouldn't be taken seriously. There is no reason to think that any of that stuff means a thing. You can't just make up a reality in your head that you like just because you like it. You have to deal with the reality that's actually here. And the religious, and unfortunately they're not alone, but these people simply can't handle the objective world that we all share. A world where they're not special. Because that's scary. Yeah, too bad.
So what is it that Christianity doesn't answer as well as your worldview?
I mean, honestly, was any of that at all impressive? Now, you can go back and rewatch the first part of my 2-part video if you want to see all of this in context. I just wandered past it because I knew it was going to be long and it wouldn't really change anything, so I just skipped it. I like to be complete, so yeah, there you go. Anyhow, what do you think? Do you think that any of these things, or anything else for that matter, is better explained through Christianity or any other religion? Let me know in the comments. At least I will respond. Hint, hint. It appears that this went very long too, which is kind of unfortunate, but hey, it happens. Which only goes to prove that you can't always predict the future. I wonder if God knew that this was going to be a long video. I'm sure people like Braxton would argue yes, and I'd love to see them prove it. Good luck on that. Anyhow, see you down below so we can have a conversation, because unlike Trinity Radio, I actually talk to people no matter what side they happen to be on. And the religious never perform well like that, if you notice. Let's see if any more show up to make unjustified claims and hold rationally unsupportable positions. It's almost like they're terrified to open their mouths. I wonder why.
Bum